I'm still in the game, son. What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time we will add Deadman to the collection. Now he is a gold label release. Now about this time I should be one of the first reviewers in the States to review this figure. Now there is a pretty cool guy. He is an Aussie and his channel is called DC Multiverse Dude. Now he already did a review of this figure, but go ahead and go check his channel out. Give him a sub. He does pretty much a lot of DC Multiverse content on there. So shout out to him. Now this is an old school character going all the way back to the 80s. Pretty interesting story behind him, and I've always been, kind of into like ghost and supernatural things, so I've always been really intrigued by him. Now he has not hit stores yet over here, but you should be looking at your targets. That's basically where we're gonna find him first, alongside that Flashpoint Aquaman, Emperor Aquaman as he should be known. But now this guy does look pretty murdered in the packaging, and let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with a data file card. On the front you do have some source material. Looks pretty sick. And on the back you do have some information. Like I said, this character does go back in the mythos of DC Comics. Go ahead and look him up. Add that to the collection. Now he does come with some accessories. He comes with like a smaller kind of smoky, misty, supernatural, fog-like tendril effect. He comes with a little bit larger of the same effect, but it does have that kind of swirling, clear plastic effect. Pretty awesome. And then he comes with another one. Now this one is really cool. This is probably one of the better effect accessories that McFarlane has released. And this is one that you can peg into him, and it actually has like his ghost spirit like manifesting where it would be like over his head. So that's pretty sweet. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now first impressions, this is more of a classic style, no texture, no detail figure, which I'm not against. It just depends what character it is. Now the body book is familiar, but this by far is a very good reuse of that body mold. So there's no problems there. Now he does look a little bit different than he usually looks in the comics. In the comics, he's usually more like a smooth faced, like white pale figure. This one has a lot more wrinkles and details and textures in the head and down into the neck, into the chest. But aside from that, the figure is really smooth and lacks any of that, texture and grain that we've come to see from McFarlane. But like I said before, if it's used correctly, then I have no problem with it. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Now, I have heard that it is another McFarlane line that they took this head from, but I'm not exactly sure what it is, but they just modified it. But since I don't know really that line, this is a new head sculpt to me. Looks pretty creepy. If you look closely, it has a lot of fine detailed lines, shadowing and wash on that head, darkness around the eyes. Really cool kind of supernatural head sculpt. Let's take a look at the articulation. He does look down really well. He also can look up pretty good. You could mod this to give it a little bit more range, but for right now it's fine. You got right to left. And of course you can tilt his head for some sinister attitude. Awesome, awesome looking figure. Another thing you'll see right away is that popped collar, which is actually a feature that this character is known for. Moving down, that's another thing that is always on the Deadman figures, is the D right at his abdomen on this kind of like circus trapeze kind of bodysuit. But what I really like, just like the original uses of this book, is the silhouette that it cuts. There's like no breakups. You don't have that ugly T-crotch. You don't have really any gaps. It's all just one nice form. Pretty awesome. Now let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. Then you have that full tilt-to-whirl motion around the waist. He does have a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, so you could twist him, get him in some pretty awesome poses. Now he does have a crunch forward. It's not very much, but it is there. But he does lean back really well, perfect for some floating, ghostly-like poses. Pretty gnarly. Now taking a look at the shoulders, he does have a lot of range, but that bushing that sits in the like butterfly socket is kind of tight. I wonder if I heat him up, it would give me a little bit more movement, but it is there. You do get a little bit of up and down and front to back. You do have a bicep swivel and double jointed elbows. Pretty nice. Moving down, like I said, this is a smooth costume, so there is no texturing, but it is kind of a breath of fresh air to see another character just, plain and more comic book style. And since this character is known for that, I'm really enjoying it. Now moving down, you have kind of a mystical hand and some beautiful sculpted ball joints for the wrist, where you get the 4 ranges of motion in the wrist. On the other side, you have the same thing, but it leads down into a fist hand. Pretty nice. Now, you can get him in your basic T-pose. He even moves up a little bit more than that. And then you can put his arms above his head. Now, this is pretty cool for like casting a spell kind of poses. Pretty awesome. Looks good. Going down to the thighs. Let's check out the thigh swivel. He does have pretty good range at the thigh swivel, which means you can rock his boot left to right without having any cuts at the thigh. He can kick up really nicely, and he can also kick back. Now, do not worry about the rubber in the trunks. When you put it back, they go back to their original form. He can cock out his leg, bend his knee, and he does have that McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees, look really good. Straighten them back out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, and rocker. Plus toe articulation. Now before we go, let's take a complete look at the lower body. Like I said, just smooth, clean musculature. Not really any shading or anything like that, but for some reason, this one doesn't need it. It looks pretty good. The only sculpt you have is at the boot cut, but the musculature is really nice. Not too bulky. This is more of a leaner character buck. So you don't really want to see like a Captain Atom using this body. I think something more like this would be appropriate. But you would want to see like a Mr. Miracle, which I really would like. one of my dream, you know how people have their list of what they want? I'd like a 2-pack of Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, but I'd really like Big Barda to be like 8 inches tall, so she'd be actually bigger than Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, and then I'd like the like in the pack to come like one of those escaped armor things that he always like escapes from because he's like an escape artist, and that's like a real obscure character that like nobody talks about that I actually want. I do have the DC Universe Classics version of Mr. Miracle, but I'm really hoping that McFarlane gets to work on that figure, and also the Big Barda is mandatory on that deal. Taking a look at the bottom, he doesn't have tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, that clean sculpt work is really nice. No shading for the muscle tone, but I mean, you don't really need it. I mean, I'd like to see how it would look with it, but for right now, it looks really good. And also look at that back sculpt, a nice wide aesthetic looking back going into a small waist. Pretty awesome. Of course, there's the hole to peg in that effect, that spirit effect, and then you have the back of his collar, and then the back of his head that also has some texturing and line work there. The back of his ghoulish head. Pretty cool. Now before we go, we can actually put that effect in. Here's the peg hole, and then you actually have a peg on the effect, and it fits actually rather smoothly, like right above his head. That peg goes in there, and then it has some tendrils that like go around his shoulders, which make it a really awesome effect. Pretty nice. Now, of course, if you know anything about DC Comics, you know that he is a part of the Justice League Dark. Now, up until now, we actually have received a good amount of characters. We did get, of course, the massive Swamp Thing, a version of Etrigan the Demon, not the one everybody wants, but he's a good fill-in. You do have Constantine, which came in the Page Punchers line. Batman, of course, fits in there. And then, of course, Dr. Fate also fits in there. And then one that we are missing that we really need to get is Zatanna to complete our Justice League Dark lineup. So all in all, looking pretty good. This is a awesome figure, poses really nicely. Now let's talk about some comparisons. First off, I do have the original DC Universe Classics Deadman. Now this one is really slender, so kind of gotta pick and choose. I wonder how this figure would have been with more like a leaner, like Dawnbreaker body shape, because that's like a slender figure that McFarlane has made. But this is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Now there was 2 versions of the DC Universe Classics. This is like the phasing version where he has translucent plastic, which is also a cool figure. So now you could see the last really good version that they did, and now our McFarlane styled version. Now this is a gold label, so that leaves it up in the air what the other original version is going to be. It could be like a smoother sculpted head, much like these, or maybe like a translucent kind of, which would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind having that figure in the collection. Now this body buck is from the Booster Gold and Blue Beetle 2-pack body book. This is the same body, just painted differently. Now, of course, we have Booster here on his cellular phone, of course, probably on Instagram, being a goof. And then I do have Blue Beetle munching on an egg sandwich. Now this was actually a really cool 2-pack that I really enjoyed. 2 comic versions that were simplified for the McFarlane line. They have minimal texturing or anything like that, and this is a really good use of that book. So anyways, guys, really happy to get this guy in the collection. He's going to look really awesome up there on the shelf with the rest of his DC Multiverse brethren. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.